Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Cabinet meeting on this beautiful, sunny July day. We are beginning, as we always do, with our apologies for absence, and I don't believe we have any today, so we're all here. Minutes of the last meeting, if you're happy for me to sign these at the end of the meeting as a true and correct record, could you show, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Disclosure of members' interest. We know the routine on this, and I know that you will all deal with that as necessary, which takes us to our first report today, which is quarter 3 and quarter 4 corporate performance. Now, this is around how have we achieved in our delivery of our 3 priorities over the last period of time, and how we want to move forward into the next year. And essentially, we monitor the effectiveness of the 3 priorities and the work that we do within each by a number of performance indicators, which we look at on a very regular basis at all levels in the council. And I'm very pleased to say that we have performed extremely well in many areas. So we normally talk about the big successes like the Northumberland line and the over 400,000 passengers that it's taken in around 6 or 7 months. We talk about the massive investment coming into Northumberland of £10 billion, one of the largest investments in the world, never mind in Europe or in this country. So we talk about some of our big successes. At the same time, it's worth remembering that of our 3 priorities, it is essential that we monitor and check on ourselves, if you like, about how successful we are being in delivering those. So if we just look, for example, at tackling inequalities, one of our 3 priorities, we're very proud to know that the family hubs are doing very well. The people giving up smoking is going very, very well. And a number of areas in which we want to work closely with our partners in trying our best within realms of what we can achieve to help those people who need our help the most. And that remains one of our key priorities. To support business. And often that actually will work very closely with tackling inequalities, because a successful business and jobs and economy within Northumberland will help people climb that ladder and gain the confidence and motivation and aspiration to be able to take a new job and to flourish in their lives. And so to that end, I'm very proud of the fact that we achieved an outstanding in our education service. We're building 3 new super schools in the county, something that's almost unheard of in many other similar councils, because we want to raise the education establishments to the level that the education service actually is at the moment. We know that the Ofsted results are superb for Northumberland, and I'm deeply grateful to our staff here and to teachers and everyone involved across the county in achieving a really great education offer. And I was particularly pleased to see a junior school in Prado, for example, yesterday received Adelaine School, primary school, achieve a wonderful Ofsted result, just as an example of how well we're doing. So it's not just the education section, of course, it's around building skills, and our Northumberland skills was rated as good, which is a tremendous achievement. And something like 2,000 people have gone through their doors over the last year, picking up new skills, learning new skills and motivation. And that comes from the work they do, and of course the work at Energy Central, which is up and running, which we donated half the cost of, is hugely important as well in terms of learning about this exciting and really important new industry of renewable energy. And at the same time as that, we look at our frontline services, or our value for money, and we're very proud to be able to see that, as well as free town centre car parking, for example, we have seen a significant improvement in our roads. Now, that's not easy to do, given the fact we have 3,000 miles of road. Many of which are C and U class roads, and therefore much more expensive to maintain and continue to keep good. So I'm really deeply grateful for that improvement in our roads, and I think most people will say, yes, our roads are so much better now, and well done to everybody involved in that. And then finally, for example, a reduction in fly tipping, one of those burdens upon local councils, an unnecessary burden that is placed upon councils to have to pick up fly tipping and sort it out. We've seen an 18% reduction in fly tipping over the last year. So our frontline services have not been cut, our frontline services have been invested in. So all of those actions within the three priorities, I'm deeply grateful for our staff's input and also for the administration's strength in ensuring that we keep our priorities clear to our team and make sure that what we would like to happen actually happens. And I'm very grateful to our officers for delivering all of these things across a myriad and varied set of objectives. So very pleased with this report. I'm happy to make that recommendation there, which you see, which is to consider and comment on progress against the corporate plan priorities, summarised in this report, and I therefore propose that recommendation. That's seconded by Councillor Wimmer. Are there any questions or thoughts on this one? I think we're all very happy with this report. So in that case, could you vote on the recommendation? Are you all happy with that? Yes, that's unanimous, so thank you very much for that. So now we move on to a really big subject, which is going to dominate a lot of our work over the coming months ahead of us, which is the local plan. And I'm going to ask Colin Horncastle, who leads for us on planning matters, to tell us about this.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, we have a huge document here. The evaluation of the local plan. So what's it all about? Excuse me. We are very fortunate to have an up-to-date local plan, and what you may not realise is that 80% of local authorities don't have an up-to-date local plan, so we're very lucky that way. Now, when it was passed by the inspector, it was noted as a plan for controlled growth while protecting the unique character of the county. And the way it panned out was it always meant we were going to have a healthy 5-year housing land supply. We adopted it at the end of March 22, and that takes us up to 2036. We are under no obligation to review it in its first 5 years. So why are we evaluating it? Well, there's been some big changes which could make the local plan less effective in certain areas. Nationally, we have a new government who introduced a new MPPF. There's been changes to the Green Belt policy, and you can imagine towns like Hexham, Monteith and Morpeth and all the other villages as protected by Green Belt could be under threat. They've increased our housing numbers in the plan from 550 to 1,650, that's ×3. We've got a new North East Combined Authority. We've got external factors as well, like wars in Europe and the Middle East, putting pressure on us to accommodate refugees and asylum seekers. But very importantly, the new passenger line in Ashington down to Newcastle, which also puts growth pressure in those corridors areas for housing and for industrial land and employment land. So we can defend against large-scale applications in our green belt, find new sites of our choosing to have an adequate housing land supply. Very important. So that if we don't have an adequate housing land supply, it's a foot in the door for developers. It gives a chance, if we were to review the local plan, to review our neighbourhood plans, look at affordable housing and make it easier in the more rural areas. It's difficult, but it certainly is a priority. And basically a revised local plan that keeps us in control of the growth we need in the areas that we want it and the protection of our greenbelt. Nationally, we are recognised as a high performer plan department. We have the expertise to move forward to a review if we need to. It's a lot of work, but it's essential. So what does the evaluation actually say? In the short term, we're okay. It's concluded that the policies within the plan, both collectively and individually, continue to conform with the new NPPF, and a review of the local plan is not necessary at this time. However, it is proposed that the Council commences the preparation of a new local plan in readiness for when changes in national policies start to impact. So with that, Leader, I would like to just move to recommendations. That's all right with you. And the recommendations are that the Cabinet is asked to approve the Northumberland Local Plan Evaluation Report and to approve that work commences towards a new local plan for the reasons summarised in the report. Cabinet is asked to grant delegated authority to the Executive Director of Place and Regeneration and the relevant portfolio holder to give formal public notification of the intent to start local plan making and undertake any early public participation and engagement and formally start local plan making in due course. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Horncastle. Very good. And as I said at the beginning, it is a very large piece of work ahead of us, a very important piece of work that we need to undertake to underline our commitment that we must protect Greenbelt in Northumberland. We want to see the right house in the right place at the right price, and that's something that we have already built a pretty strong record upon delivering. You may remember that we said we wanted to build 1,000 affordable homes. Some years ago, we've actually done 3 times that many, and we see around 3,000 either built or in the pipeline. So that's the kind of thing we want to see. We want to see the right house in the right place, and also see how advanced Northumberland may well help us in delivering even more on that target. Any questions or queries or points? Yes, Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Leader. Colin, are there any sort of mechanisms in the local plan development process that allow us to basically encourage a wider variety of house builders? We, often, and I think we're no different to any other county, we're very reliant on the very biggest house builders for much of the house building. But they're not interested in certain areas because they're not, they're not economic for them. I would like to see us being able to encourage smaller developers to do smaller, high-quality developments, particularly in sort of infill sites in rural areas, for example. So, are there mechanisms in the plan to allow us to kind of bake that in?
Certainly. I mean, it's something as a CAM that we've discussed privately, but in discussions with Mr. Murphy, he says this is possible because what's important, and you brought this up, Councillor Oliver, that a lot of the large developers do not want to move away from the southeast of the county. They like to, and we are missing out in the rural areas and our rural towns and villages for small local businesses. And I've been in discussions with Mr. Murphy, and he says, yes, there are things that we can do about this. It's very important because that's one of the ways of regenerating the rural areas as well, using the local workforce and to actually get people to work there. Some of the large developers will not work there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Werner.
Thank you, Leader. Just to emphasise for the public that might be watching how really important this is, and we mustn't have short memories. When we came into office as an administration in 2017, we encountered an absolute shambles in terms of policy on the local plan, and we had house builders building anywhere that they wanted because we couldn't identify a 5-year supply. We had appeals that used to just get filed after a handful of months in application, only to be upheld because we couldn't demonstrate that 5-year supply. That meant that there was a significant number of communities, including here in Morpeth, but there was others, Amble and other places, where house building just ran away with itself with no strategy, no thought as to the impact on schools, on services and so on. And we've been playing catch up over the last 8 years to make sure that we, having inherited that situation, that we put it all right. We mustn't and we will not as Councillor Horncastle has identified, allow this council ever to get into that situation again. And that's why it's really important that whilst we do have a decent number of years of housing supply, that we make sure that we bring forward a plan that can protect us against that, that has a proper thought out plan at the heart of house building in this county, but as well that it links it with the infrastructure that we've successfully lobbied government to get funding for and funding for in place ourselves, like the Northumberland line and other improvements around the highways network and so forth, that it takes into account the amazing progress that the council has made in terms of securing inward investment, and the leader in a previous item mentioned that the AI campus at Camas, that's used up an awful lot of employment land, and we'll need more employment land to make sure that we take advantage of that huge multi-billion pound investment, one of the biggest investments in the whole of Europe. But as well making sure that we've got that supply for to create the jobs that we want to around the chief, the endowment policy, the endowment fund that we created off the back of that investment by Blackstone QTS. So there's loads to go at here, and what's really exciting and reassuring is that I know that the council officer team and all of the councillors who are now part of the council can engage in that process and have a proper strategy and a thought out plan for Northumberland. It's exciting, but it's going to be done in a controlled and careful way.
Yes, thank you very much. And
do you mind if I just come back on that? If you think about the last 3 years since this plan's been adopted, we've had none of the huge, large-scale developments that we had previous. I remember in this chamber 8 years ago when the administration of the day was going to build all out here. No thought of anything. And you know yourself what was going to happen. McDonald's next to a school. That's a fact. That's what was going to happen. It was just whatever developers wanted. There was no thought to the education side of it, to the health side of it, to the infrastructure. And that's why Morpeth is a wonderful town, but it's been under serious pressure. And it's like to say, there's been some very, very strange applications that these days would never have gone through. And that's the difference between having a strong plan. So towns like Morpeth and Cramlington, I've seen planned applications in Cramlington for thousands of houses go through in the past. Those things aren't happening now because we are in control, because there's excellent local plan that we've got, and we've got to make sure that the changes and the revisions we make keep us in control. We've got to control the growth in the county and not developers.
Good, thank you very much. Guy Renner-Thompson.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to highlight to Cabinet and potentially the wider public that this review of the local plan is very important in the context of what the Labour government have done to the neighbourhood planning process. So they've now, people are probably unaware of this because they didn't make a big song and dance of it, but they've pulled all the funding for any new neighbourhood plans. Now, neighbourhood plans allow parish councils and communities to set the agenda within their own parishes and set village boundaries and housing supply limits for within their own communities. And for those parishes which haven't put their neighbourhood plans in place yet, that is now just a dream. So they don't believe in these communities making their own decisions. They believe in top-down housing targets, and they believe in, you know, telling us from London what our villages can look like, as opposed to our villages deciding for themselves what they should look like. So it's really important that communities now take part in this process for the county local plan, because unfortunately they're not going to be able to progress with their own local plans.
Leader, if I could come back on that, please, because I can answer that. Yes, this new government has withdrawn some of the funding that enabled the parish and town councils to carry out their neighbourhood plans. However, in discussions with the Director of Housing and Planning, we think we've got the capacity to still help them, still carry them out. It's another burden passed on from the government to us, but we think we can still carry out not just new neighbourhood plans, but the reviews of the ones we've got.
Good. Yes, I think these are all really valuable and important points to make. We want to be in charge of of clearly stating our preference for the way forward in terms of industrial sites, in terms of housing, and by inviting a really thorough consultation to a revised local plan, it will allow people to ensure that a new local plan will reflect what they want, rather than what is necessarily the thoughts of the current government or anyone else for that matter. So this is why the consultation is so important, and I'm very glad that we are going to do this very thoroughly and allow people to have a genuine voice in this process. So, if there are no more questions, Councillor Horncastle proposed the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Stewart. Are you all in favour, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much for that. So now we move on to another very important matter, which is the financial performance, and I'm going to ask Councillor Oliver to tell us about that.
Thank you, Leader. Well, I'll apologise in advance if anybody gets a strange sense of déjà vu, because this is a very similar report to the one I presented at the last Cabinet meeting. This is the final outturn report for the last financial year to the end of March 25. And the headline figures are basically we've an underspend of 177,000. So, once again, I think certainly for the 8th year I'm aware of, this council has managed its finances very well and come in, at it around its budget figure. There have been areas of significant pressure, however, and they have had to be managed in year by very competent officers. Pulling out all the stops to manage that situation. In particular, 2.7 million overspend in adults services and a £10 million overspend in children's services. And like everywhere else in the country, those two areas are facing significant pressure, and that's been obviously all over the news in recent weeks in the national press. Those overspends have been largely offset by sound sort of financial management and in the sort of corporate area. Things like restructuring of debt, saving £3.6 million, and there's been sort of £10 million of underspend in that area in particular. And it's worth pointing out that the Treasury management at this council has always been excellent, and the financial management is too. Whilst all of that was happening from a revenue point of view, there's also been a very significant capital spend. We've spent £261 million, and that's invested into our sort of communities. Much of that money has been secured from externally, so that is a huge success. We've managed to convince government and other agencies to invest in our county. We spent over 120 million on transport, including the transformative investment in the Northumberland line, which is already beating all of its passenger targets, and really is a massive boost for that part of the county from Ashington into Tyneside. It opens up employment opportunities for people living in those communities. They can get to Tyneside, but it also, I suppose, in a funny sort of way, allows people in Tyneside to come and work in the new jobs being created in South East Northumberland as well. So it does work. The trains do run both ways. We've also invested 54 million in our schools, and again, this is about the sort of future of our communities, and not many local authorities are investing that sort of money or able to invest that sort of money into schools, and we're really proud of the fact that we're investing in the future of our county. And then also we've invested £14 million in our housing stock, and the leader's already mentioned the investment in social housing, and so that's really important. The other thing worth mentioning is the BEST programme, which is basically a £20 million investment over 5 years, with a very ambitious recurring, so that's an annual savings target of £60 million. We're about halfway through that programme, and things are really going well. We've saved money, we've made some significant savings, one-off savings and recurring annual savings this year. And that basically demonstrates our commitment to delivering first-class value for money services to residents in Northumberland. So that's basically, we're reaching, that process. The process now that we're in is the audit starts on those accounts. We are now into the following year's budget, and we'll be reporting regularly on progress against that. And we're about to start the budget setting process for the following year, and we're sort of eagerly waiting to see what our funding from central government might look like. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Very good. Are you going to propose a recommendation?
Yes, I'll propose the recommendations.
Seconded by Councillor Riddle. Thank you very much indeed for that very thorough report. Yes, Councillor Riddle.
Yes, thank you, Leader. It really is testament to the good management of the finances of this county. We've got some great officers as well. Many councils in this country are in dire financial straits. This council is very, very solid and has remained so. As Councillor Oliver said, we've continued with a huge capital programme, and he mentioned the challenges of SEND and adults, which are universal across the country, but we have managed that. Frontline services, we haven't cut any frontline services. No frontline services cut. That's absolutely great. We've actually continued to improve things like public toilets when other councils have been closing them. We continue with our hour free in country parks, etc., for people to walk their dogs and take a short break. Town centre car parking remains free. And, the list goes on. So really, I just want to thank officers and members for this very, very good financial outturn. This is an underspend in very challenging conditions.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, John. I agree with you completely. So I would just echo what you've said. I think at a time when it is very challenging to manage a county council, in particular, given the size and enormity of the task that we have, it is a great credit to our finance team, and actually for the shared drive and ambition of this administration to ensure that we run the council efficiently. And the best programme, while some people are talking about reviewing council finances and going through every single piece of paper, we've been doing this now for over 18 months, and we are well on track to make sure that everything we do is full value for money and as efficient as it possibly can be, because this council is a business after all, and we have to make sure we run the business efficiently. And I'm deeply grateful, as I say, to our finance staff for all their input into this. I don't think life will get any easier. I think we will continue to have a challenging financial time, but given the same motivation, given the same teamwork that officers and members have, and when I say team, I mean that. It's very important that we continue to say what we would like to happen, and then officers very kindly then deliver it. And that is how it's worked, and I'm really grateful for that. So there we are. There are the recommendations. Are you all in favour of those? Yeah. Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. So we've got a summary of new capital proposals next. And there are four of those. The first one I'm going to ask Guy Renner-Thompson to talk about because this falls within his cabinet responsibilities. Guy.
Thank you, Leader. So on the face of it, this is a relatively simple investment in 2 new containers at our Seghill campus. But what it represents is an expansion of our construction learning programme down in Seghill, which has proven to be incredibly popular, so popular that we have to expand the buildings. And this Saturday, and then next Tuesday, and then next Thursday, we have upcoming taster sessions for new learners to go there, learn about plastering, building, electrical engineering. And they're all not quite fully booked, but they're nearly fully booked. So we're pushing those and encouraging young people from across the county to go there. We've heard already about how there's a need for house building in certain areas, but who's going to build those houses? We want local people to have the skills to get into the construction industry and build the affordable housing that we need across the county. So it's not just in Seg Hill, we've seen expansion in our skills services across the county, and they had a very good Ofsted rating not so long ago. And it's a service that we're very proud of, but this is just one small investment which just shows how well this service is running.
That's really good, and it is a great setup at Seg Hill. Councillor Chicken, would you like to say something about it?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Yes, as the ward member for Seg Hill, I can say the improvement that we've seen at that particular site is quite stark. The local residents have the ability to find a college on their doorstep that they've never had before. They've never had that. With the Northumberland line just being a hop, step and a jump away, we're seeing people coming in from Ashington, various places around the area that they can link up with. What we're seeing is also a boost in trade in and around a small village that we never would have seen beforehand. It's good for the economy, it's good for the teenagers, shall we say, and also there's an adult programme as well. It is very, very popular, and I can say from a resident's point of view that seeing an expansion of that site and seeing it grow into what it could be is very much in favour. So thank you.
Very good, thank you. Yes, it's certainly worth a visit, and I know that that is an invitation open to anyone that would like to go and see the work going on there, because it is very inspirational and very good work, so that's fine. The Concordia Leisure Centre, a very large and successful leisure centre in Cramlington. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Leader. The proposal in front of you today is to replace the flat roof above the bowling alley, bar and studio at Concordia Leisure Centre, Cramlington, with a budget of £500,000. We fully recognise that our council investment into sports and leisure facilities is a key investment into health and well-being of our residents, and we have aligned our leisure service provision to work very closely with public health to enable a real focus on active well-being. So following a conditions report, the flat roof areas at the rear of the building is beyond the expected life expectancy for a flat roof. I think we all know flat roofs can be very difficult. And so it's now leaking in several places, and so I'm asking everyone to approve this spend this morning. And just if I could give a little stat, Leader, about our leisure centres as a whole. During 24-25, our 10 sports and leisure facilities received over 2.4 million visits, with 7,000 sessions being delivered specifically for those with long-term health conditions. And can I just say, in the last year or so, these figures have risen.
That's very interesting. It is always pleasing to see performance figures for usage and satisfaction for our leisure centres. We have a portfolio of buildings and opportunities that is second to none. And I know a number of council leaders who are very jealous of what we have here. We have invested over the Conservative years a significant amount of money on leisure, and I think it's absolutely the right thing for us to have done, and it's great that so many people go to visit that one. So
Absolutely.
That's great news.
Yep.
Yes, Councillor Chicken.
Thank you. As the Cabinet Member for Health, this is really good to see. Physical and mental health is linked, undoubtedly linked to physicality. And having access to that means the world to a lot of people. if you do not have access to something, you are far unlikely to actually go to it. If it takes you an hour to get somewhere, you're just going to give up, especially if you're in a frame of mind or you're already sort of defeatist. Seeing the change in people who use our facilities is the best outcome. To see that in health, to see it in their mental health, and within community. Friendships are born within community centres. People talking to one another, they can address not just their physical and mental health, but also the elements that are going on in their life. And it is really, really encouraging to see this council to put that kind of money and effort into something that is so valued within the community and within the health sector. So, thank you.
Excellent, very wise words, and yes, absolutely, and agree with you on that. Thank you for that. Okay, so the next one is the City Regional Sustainable Transport Settlement, the CRSTS. What are we doing with that, Councillor Wearmouth?
Thank you, Leader. So this is part of the CRSTS, as you say. We've got a few projects here that are going forward for funding, subject to us agreeing here today. One is the Seafront Active Corridor scheme on the A193, which is in the southeast of the county and connects in with the wider North Tyneside cycle network as well, which is has been received very well in terms of the consultation that we've done on the ground. We've got some really useful feedback from residents about things that are included in the scheme, and the officers will be looking at that in due course. There's, if I dwell on that one for a second, there's this funding that we're accepting for the most part from the combined authority. It can only be used for these purposes. We have bid in and been successful in securing this cash, and we match it with a relatively modest sum by comparison from the County Council resource. So 1.4 million from County Council resources, leveraging in a spend of 8.235 million from the combined authority. So a big investment by ourselves and the combined authority into that part of the county. The second one is for Ashington A1 active travel scheme, which is one that runs in the sort of northern parts of Ashington, linking up with some of the major investments that we've got there already, things like the new college that we were instrumental in helping make sure that it was realised, but as well the town centre regeneration, the cinema that's to come, and some of the employment opportunities along that wider route. The project there has a total value of just over 5 million, with 775,000 from ourselves and 4.3 million from the achieved in terms of support from NECA. So two good schemes, attracting a lot of grant funding, and you see the recommendations there in due course. I'll just be very happy that people support that. What are two good projects.
Thank you very much. Nick, Oliver.
Thank you, Leader. Obvious health and environmental benefits to these schemes, but there are also significant regeneration and economic benefits as well. Northumberland is very rapidly placing itself at a very sort of peak of destinations for cycling and walking holidays, and the money that brings in, the people that come into Northumberland to walk and to cycle are staying here, you know, for longer, and they're spending money, and they're eating out in the evenings, and they're supporting local businesses. And so I just think that, you know, it's great that we've managed to attract this funding from the combined authority, and it will help to develop that infrastructure and place us a really important place on the national tourism scene.
Absolutely, good point. Any other questions on this particular one? No, thank you very much. So the next one is the Borderlands Place programme, Northumberland Hall enabling works and Alnwick bus station improvements. Richard Wearmouth.
Thank you, Leader. So, yeah, as you say, two projects, part of a much broader suite of projects that are being worked up by the team in Alnwick. These are some of the first Borderlands projects to come forward. The Bailiff Gate works, i.e. the works to Northumberland Hall, are really important. The building could do certainly with some TLC, and that's what this initial funding provides, about bringing it back into a good standard of repair. Very important as part of the wider project by the Bailiff Gate Museum team to use the site in due course. You'll read in the paper in more detail about their work to secure Heritage Lottery funding and other funding as part of the Borderlands Place programme. So we hear a lot about Borderlands at full council. This is one of the very earliest of projects that are coming through to achieve full funding in due course. This is the first step. The second one, if I may as well, actually, apologies, is for the bus station. We've had a lot of feedback about the bus station over a period of time. Leader, you'll forgive me if I embarrass you, that you've gone really into bat to secure funding, and you've done a great job of that in making sure that we got funds from the bus improvement programme as part of the combined authority. You did that right the way through even the negotiations to create the combined authority. This was the subject of discussions. This bit is us putting some initial funding in from the County Council to do some design work on the bus station itself, because what will come from the funding from Necker in due course will be about sort of the orientation and the space around the bus station. We don't want the bus station to be itself physically as the building to be left as the poor relation and looking still tired. So we're doing this design work and then subsequently we'll trigger the next stage, which will be some physical improvement to the bus station itself as well as its surroundings. So I'm sure it'll be very welcome, and Councillor Renner Thompson might have some comments on it in due course.
He may well. I just want to say to you, thank you very much for all the work you've done, Richard, in maintaining the momentum of our regeneration projects and making sure that all of the great stuff that we've achieved over the last few years will be duplicated in the coming years with that same level of aspiration and ambition and commitment. So thank you very much indeed for that. Are there any questions or points? Yes, Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to go back to the Northumberland Hall just a little brief history lesson. Was built in 1826 by the 3rd Duke of Northumberland and is Grade 1 listed. So it's extremely important to the people of Alnwick.
Lovely, and it's very much our intention that we should see a new lease of life and a renaissance for that building, because it is due. Guy Renner Thompson will tell us why.
Well, I was name dropped about the bus station, so I was going to talk about how important it is. And, you know, myself and Gordon Castle and other local members and Councillor Patson and other local members in that part of the world have been very passionate about the bus station over the years. If you live in the rural hinterland of Alnwick and you want to come in for the shops or to school or for the brand new leisure services that we've got, you have to pass through the Alnwick bus station, and it really has been a blight for many, many years. You know, I went to school in Alnwick 20 years ago, and it was horrible then. And it's despite lots of very good work by the local police and local youth services and whatever, the actual fabric of the building is still horrible now. So this work that's going into it is incredibly important for Alnwick, and it's something that people in the wider rural Northumberland really appreciate.
Yes, it comes under a number of terms of description, that particular bus station, doesn't it? It does, indeed. Yeah, it does. But certainly, horrible is a good expression for the general state of it now, and that's what we want to get rid of. Okay, so anything else on those two? Because that brings us to the end. I just, before we have a proposer and seconder and vote on this, I think this is another example. Even our strongest critics, even those people who really hate us, can't get over the fact that this is more spending across the county that will improve people's lives. And it's as simple as that. And we are spreading the money that we have to make sure that all residents can have a share of it, and that's explained here. And all of these schemes are really, really important for many people. So great stuff. Can I have a proposer then for the four together? Proposed and seconded by Councillor Wearmouth. Are you all in favour, please? Perfect. Thank you very much. And that takes us to our final report today, which is around corporate risk management. I'm going to ask Councillor Oliver to tell us about why this is very important for us.
Thank you, Leader. So this is a regular report that comes to Cabinet and which reflects the fact that this organisation feels that dealing with its sort of risk environment is really important and takes a proactive approach to dealing with risk. Any large organisation, any large business faces a multitude of external and internal risks, and Northumberland County Council is no different. So any responsible large organisation takes a proactive approach to doing everything it can to mitigate those risks. And the things listed, there are 10 risks listed in this report, which is actually down from 11. One has been sort of downgraded. And none of those things should come as a surprise to anybody. They are sort of largely risks that any large organisation would face. And what we're demonstrating here is that we are very serious about managing these risks. Every risk on this report has an executive director attached to it, i.e. responsible for it, and a cabinet member responsible for it. And all of these risks are regularly reviewed, and a plan is put in place to mitigate each of those risks. I won't go into the detail of the individual risks, but you'll see every risk has a target score and a current score, and where the current score is less than the target score, well, in fact, even where it isn't less than the target score, there are a number of measures identified to mitigating those risks. So there's a clear plan for every risk, and that plan is regularly monitored, and any actions are taken. So I'll just pick a couple of the risks at random to just give you a flavour for what they are. So financial sustainability, we've talked about the outturn, we've talked about the budget setting process. Any large organisation like this faces financial risks. We don't know what the demand for our statutory services is going to be each year. We don't know until just before we set the budget what our settlement from central government is going to be. So there's a risk involved in that, and that risk is mitigated by good management controls, a very robust budget setting process, and a whole heap of individual measures which I won't go into. But another risk that every large organisation faces is the risk of cybersecurity, and I've picked that one because it's been in the press quite a lot. I think Marks and Spencer's cost them over £100 million recently when they had a cyber attack, and many large organisations are constantly under attack, and councils are no different. So it's really important that we have a clear plan in place to deal with the cyber threats. And it's really important that every member of staff, and particularly every councillor, takes those risks seriously. We're all subject to various sort of processes and tests to make sure that we're dealing with our IT systems responsibly, and where we get asked to do training and things like that, it's really important that we do that. So that's all part of the process to mitigate a very serious risk. So that's just a couple of them. I could go on about all of them, but I won't.
No, that's very good. Thank you very much indeed. Very strong management needed, and very strong management is being provided. Any questions or queries about the risks and how we are dealing with them and the management of them? No? Okay. So could you propose a recommendation?
Yes, I propose the recommendations.
Thank you very much, and seconded by Councillor Mather. Are you all in favour? Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. I have no urgent business. So that takes us to the end of the meeting. Thank you all very much indeed, and thank you for joining us at home. Very nice to see you, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next one.